This is Movies, a podcast by the Active Cinema, and with me today, he's so phlegmy. He has so much cream in his coffee, and he cannot handle it. It is, of course, one Hans Lombarboza. Hans, how are you doing this evening besides trying to spit up wads of green goo that are in your throat?
I'm good. I'm just having some coffee because I've been up since like 5 a.m. and I needed a little bit of energy, but then I realized that I'm about to talk for about an hour. Maybe I shouldn't be having creamy drinks because my throat is now a little phlegmy.
Well, it can also work in your favor. I do think I give the best voiceover for freelance projects whenever I have a very milky food or beverage right before doing the dialogue, because it adds a little bit of texture to your throat, adds a little bit of grit. I don't think the best time, you gotta have to give it a little time after you have a smoke, or if you're having a hard alcoholic beverage. A lot of people credit those things to having great vocals for delivering any sort of narration, but it's with time. The abuse has to set in over time. But if you want just like a little bit extra, a little when you're talking, have a good cocoa with milk and marshmallows.
Yeah,
Very yummy.
wouldn't alcohol and smoking just dry your throat up and make it worse?
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah. So you're gonna give like a very wispy performance if you handle things that way. If you don't think things out, you have to plan it days in advance. You got to burn through an entire pack of smokes over 4 days before that fifth day comes around, and you start narrating your YouTube true crime video on murdered women.
Yeah, and then you just clearing it, but it's just because you're trying to get moisture in your throat.
Mm-hmm.
When I used to smoke regularly, that would happen all the time. I would just be having a conversation with someone and just like every couple of seconds, just
Smoke
try to get
weed
something in
regularly.
there.
You never smoke
Yeah.
cigarettes regularly.
Oh no, not that.
We
But
know that.
yeah,
Any listener who's familiar with the lore of the show definitely knows that.
yeah. When we were going through some stuff with Jerry, and he shared those images of me just sweating in the back of that car, struggling after that one cigarette. So yeah,
Mhm.
no, tobacco is not my friend. That nicotine my body really hates it.
Have you ever done Zyn or used
Mm.
anything like that? Nicotine gum?
No, I tried. Is that what those are? Those little pouches that you put
Mm-hmm.
in between your?
Takes the
Yeah, I
place of
tried.
chewing tobacco, basically.
Yeah, I tried one of those little pouches because when I was in England, my friends from like Norway and those countries, they would all do that, and I was like, let me try one. As soon as I put it in, it just started burning. I was like, oh
Mm-hmm.
no, fuck this. This sucks. I hate this. What do you no?
If you're not
So no.
prepared, you're not into that, you don't want to vibe with that, then you're not going to enjoy it. We did a lot of Zyn while shooting OFC because Ryan is a big snooze guy, a big Zyn guy. So we would frequently pop that in, or you go, snorting tobacco. I enjoyed that. I definitely
Uh,
do enjoy a good snooze every
what
so
does it do?
often.
What does it do for you?
Keeps you sharp.
Really?
That's about
I
it.
just
Yeah. That's all nicotine does is it all right, well, you're gonna think a little faster. You're gonna be on your feet a little better. It's not the worst thing, but it's definitely you wind up sneezing later on, and then there's all this black crud that comes out into your tissue, and you're like, oh fuck, am I dying? Oh wait, no, I snorted tobacco this morning and it's just been hanging out my nose. So that's
yeah.
you gotta have a tough heart for that type of enjoyment.
It's like, have you ever had a beet juice and then forget that you had beet juice? And then when you go piss and it's kind of pink, you're like, oh no, what's going on here? Because I've been doing that in the morning when I wake up. Like the first thing I do is I make beet juice in the weekend, and then for the week, the first thing I drink in the morning is just like a shot of that. But sometimes I forget because it's early, and then I would go take a shit or piss, and it's like red colored, and I have to remind myself that it's like, oh right, I'm not actually dying. It's just it's healthy instead somehow.
So do you just have red piss every single morning?
Yeah, it's like pinkish.
That sounds terrible. Why would you eat? What is the appeal of a beet? I've never had a beet and thought, damn, I got to integrate that into my daily diet.
Oh no, it's just supposed to be really good for you, I guess. But I don't like the flavor
So is
of
cabbage. Why don't you have
anything
cabbage juice every morning?
because it makes me fart. I don't want to be gassy.
Damn,
I don't
that
want
sounds
an
really
extra.
fucking bad. Is
Yeah.
all right, your farts are bad enough, but cabbage juice farts. That sounds like
Yeah.
suicide.
Well, it's not just that it's going to be bad, but it's also going to make them more often, you know. So it's going to be a lot of them more, and then worse because of
Hmm.
the cabbage. So I stay away from cabbage.
Well,
I also only have beans when I know I'm not going to see anyone because I know I'm going to be with my stomach hurting if I can't just openly let them out.
you know who would enjoy a good cabbage fart death? Something so painful and grotesque as that is one Art the Clown. Art the Clown, who undergoes quite the transformation film to film. That's right. This is part one of our
Yeah.
Halloween special. And it's not Halloween. We're recording this on October 29th. We're going to be talking about the saga of Art the Clown as conducted by Damien Leone.
What is it? The most successful unrated movie in history, right? The third one, 50 million just made.
It's made more than that, I believe, now. But yeah, on a budget of $2 million, the second one was this fluke. And I got to be honest with you guys. I got to be real. I watched Terrifier 1 and I watched Terrifier 2 when Terrifier 2 had come out. And I thought, I don't get what people are going on and on about. This looks like shit. It's very flat looking. Someone didn't know how to light or know how to use shadows, rather. And I think that is a problem with all of these movies is Damien Leone and his cinematographers he winds up using don't know how to use shadows to their advantage because everything is lit. And that's the
Mhm.
type of choice that a guy who works in makeup and special effects would do. If he put in a lot of work to make a cut or a gore effect or someone's eyeball popping out look really good, you spend hours doing that. You want to make sure every inch of it is on camera unless you know you're doing a shit job. Then you want to hide it as much as possible. You want to use all the technology to your advantage to cover up your flaws. But he's good at what he does with the special effects. He's
Yeah.
terrific. And that shows with the first Terrifier movie, which we'll get into in a little bit. We do have a little bit of ground to cover right before that. It's something that that type of person would wind up doing who's maybe not the most natural writer director. And I don't think anyone would argue with these Terrifier movies. The writing is not the strong suit. It's
Or
not,
acting.
sure, but they're pulling from an acting pool that I certainly can relate to, which is what did you grab people from backstage? What is it? A casting call for local New Jersey actors who are just willing to work for $100 that day? I can certainly relate to that. So I'm not going to be too critical. And at the end of the day, these are slasher movies. There's not a high bar for slasher movies as long as you're doing something that's interesting enough and the kills are kind of cool and your villain doesn't suck. Then you're kind of succeeding. And I certainly appreciate this now more than ever when you take a look at it compared to the A24 elevated psychological social commentary schlock that everyone has had beaten into their heads because George Romero used a black man as the lead in Night of the Living Dead. And hey, did you know Dawn of the Dead was consumer culture being commentated on? You get all that bullshit, and people think it has to be a staple for horror to be good. That's not the case at all. Horror just has to be kind of eerie, has to
Yeah.
give you a certain type of mood, and it will do the job, and it will be a success. And so I went into, and I'll talk about this more when we broadcast live on YouTube on Halloween. Join us, patreon.com/LowRes. Hang out in the $5 tier. You're going to get some exclusive episodes, by the way. And we will be posting the link there before anywhere else. Maybe we'll even go live early for patrons. We'll see. We'll play it by ear. We're not trick-or-treating that day, so we both have it available. I decided to get a ticket to go see Terrifier 3. And I wasn't going to do that, but here's what happened with Terrifier 2. And I felt like maybe I missed out on something. Maybe I lost something here, and this is why I'm not connecting with it. I watched a cam copy of it to begin with, and then I watched it on Tubi or wherever it wound up premiering. And that really didn't help my opinion. But I also know that's not the fairest way to judge a movie. And so, Terrifier 3, it's a Christmas movie. It's around Halloween. When was the last time I saw a slasher movie in the theater? Probably the Friday the 13th remake from 2009 or 8.
Did you not go see Thanksgiving?
Yeah, but you know what? That was fine. All right, Thanksgiving. But I think what was made apparent to me, especially after seeing Terrifier 3, is that Thanksgiving is Eli Roth castrating himself. It's Eli Roth deciding, I think we're past doing an actual slasher movie. Why don't we do something that's going to be commercially friendly and appealing to girls who use TikTok? Because you didn't get any of the harshness that was certainly a staple to his early work and even featured in that Thanksgiving trailer. So fine, yeah, Thanksgiving. But a proper, actual, real slasher film? Friday the 13th is my guess anyway.
But that's 2004? No, 2008?
2008 or 9.
Right.
And so I went into Terrifier 3, and I have to say I was charmed by the look of the movie on this go around. I don't know if they shot it on film or if it was just like grainy digitalness or whatever, but there's a certain warmth to the movie. And by the time I walked out of the film, I was like, okay, without giving away my review on the movie, I'm going to go revisit the older Terrifier films. And so I started looking into All Hallows Eve, the 2013 film from Damien Leone, which is, I guess, an anthology. And I don't think it's his first movie. Is it? No, it is his first movie. He did a couple of short films that had come out before then. We don't know how old Damien Leone is. I think he's in his 40s. Right? There's nothing on his age. So he would have been...
Yep, he is 39.
He's 39 now?
Yeah. Wait, no. 1984. Sorry, 40.
Okay, so he's 40. All right, damn. Making me feel real old all of a sudden.
You?
Yeah, I get well. So he put this out in 2013, which would then put him at what, 31? 29?
No.
Did I just out myself as being really bad at math on this show?
Well, 13 is 9 years, right? So it would be, 31.
Okay, all right. Don't make me feel fucking stupid if I was right about the equation here. Jesus. So he put this out at 31, and you got to feel pretty good watching this knowing he put it out at age 31, because this is not that good.
No, I really not enjoy myself watching this. You can see where it goes, I guess, but as an introduction to the character, I don't even think that works. I feel like the art here is just kind of like he didn't really know where the character was going to go, and it was more the visual aspect of it more than anything else. And the anthology aspect didn't really work for me. I feel like is very corny.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked very digital, which I mean fair because it was shot digitally, but there was something about the way that it was shot where I don't know if they're trying to make it look not digital or they put some type of filter where it looks odd. I think I mentioned this to you in our messages before we started recording that they all kind of look different. Like every single one of these movies have like a weird tone, like visual tone to them. But the first one is the worst one and makes sense. It's the one with the least budget. It just didn't work for me. I didn't care for it, and it just kind of dragged, especially because it's not just Art the Clown. He's just a part of it, and then the other, I guess, villains would be like a demonic cult and just like generic dark monster thing. So
well, this came out around the same time as VHS, if I remember right. Yeah. That was what, 2011 or 2012 when the first one had come out. And what Damien Leone actually did with this movie is he did a short film in 2006 shot on 35 millimeter called The Ninth Circle, which he does a little nod to in Terrifier 3. And he used that as one of the segments of the movie. It was that, and then he decided to add in a little extra and turn it into a feature film. And so you have this inconsistent look to the movie. And the Art the Clown sequences feel very vintage 70s. I think the look of it, I don't mind. The rest of the film, I do mind the look of, because you're right. It does feel cheap and digital and DSLR. So it's not my favorite, but I didn't hate it. I certainly didn't have as negative of an opinion on this movie as you probably did. Because I put it on, well, it was on like Tubi or something, and I thought back to my experiences with Terrifier 1 and 2, and I think the art in this movie, and also in Terrifier 1, is a different kind of art than what we are now saddled with. There's a different actor who plays art in this movie. I think his name is Mike Gianelli. He's not David Howard Thornton is our current Art the Clown, if I remember right, who you sent me a picture of, and he looks very theater teacher. He looks like every gay theater teacher in a high school. You don't like this art.
No, I didn't care for it. I think like it was missing personality. Also, the look is a little different. It's not as intense, I think he's missing a little bit of makeup on the eyes, and there's something that's off about the way that face is painted compared to what it looks like on when it becomes Terrifier. I think now that I'm looking at it, it might not be, but it's also a thicker Art the Clown. It's like a little chubbier in the face. So when you have that switch, because I did watch them back to back, the Terrifier and Hallows Eve, and you can tell the difference between the two actors. You can tell that on the Terrifier one, his face is just a little like more angular and more pointy, and also, well, the movie's more focused on him being the main villain, so. It works a lot better. Also, the look of it looks more professional. It looks like an actual movie. It doesn't look so digital anymore.
That's right.
But yeah, my biggest issue with that All Hallows Eve is that it just feels like there's a lot of ideas that he had that he wanted to cram in there, and I don't think they all work together. I don't think the Art the Clown works as well as like a minion from a stronger or bigger villain, as
I thought you were referencing a Despicable Me minion. I thought you were saying he looked like a minion.
Well, he communicates similarly, right? But yeah, I don't know. I'm glad that this era of horror where everyone decided that because VHS worked, now we're all going to do our own anthology type of movie.
Disastrous move. If you're an independent filmmaker, what is the phrase here? What is the common, and this is proven true every single time? It's I don't actually know the exact quote here, but you want to go where the puck is going, not where the puck has been, right? When you're playing hockey. And so many people chase the current trend. They don't try to figure out what is the next step. Where is this actually leading towards? They don't care to do that. And we certainly have friends who succumb to that, who try to emulate or buck the trend of this movie just popped off. Why don't we try and push something now while it's hot? But no. The time to do that was probably literally the day those numbers for the box office came out, and no time after that. Because there are thousands of fucking idiots who are doing the same exact thing as you, and one of them, maybe one of them, will get their opportunity. You got to figure out what is going to hit before it hits. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. Don't even bother.
And also the problem with that is that by the time that your movie comes out, whatever is hot in that moment where you decided to make it, it's probably not anymore. So then you just lose that little window that you had to.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There's a certain trend that will happen with genres, and people will try and follow it up. And by the time that subsequent derivative version of whatever that thing that was popular is does come out, you're right. You're absolutely right. It won't be so hot anymore. Like the chef genre was very popular because of the bear. And so you had chef movies and you had chef reality shows and chef TV shows. And now it's kind of over. If you were going to pitch a chef show now, you might get funding for it, but who the fuck is going to care about that?
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like around this time there were so many independent anthology horror movies that are just terrible, where it's not even worth going through it to try to find the one segment that works, which is usually what happens. There's maybe one, usually you're kind of like, okay, I can see something decent here, but
Mm-hmm.
it's usually just garbage. Uh and I'm glad that they decided to turn this into an Art the Clown franchise instead, because well, not only has it been successful monetarily, but I feel like it's introduced a new horror icon, and we haven't had one in a while. Uh, not maybe not so much like a Freddy or a Jason, because we don't live in a time where a character like that could become as big as those were
Mm-hmm.
when those movies came out, because of how saturated we are with everything with content. But um, I haven't seen the third one yet, but I think they've created enough of a lore for this character, even though I don't think you really go much into his backstory or anything, where if he wanted to, he could continue making these movies, and people will go see them because there's nothing out there like them at the moment. And by that, I just mean a fun, violent movie that is just going to have fun with itself, that you're not supposed to take seriously, and that is not going to try to uh, pull some type of political messaging or anything like that. It's just, well, this guy kills and he's ruthless and he enjoys it, and that's it. That's what you get. And that's probably the reason why it's been so successful, because there's really nothing that's produced out there where you can just do whatever like that, where you don't have someone that's like stopping you to be sensitive towards X, Y, or Z. And this one just came, at the perfect time for that, I think, and especially because I think they've invested the money really well too, because each of those movies just keep raising the stakes, and you can see where the money's invested too. You can see the quality of the movies have gotten better.
Well, he did make the right decision pursuing art and not pursuing All Hallows Eve, because there
Yeah.
is a franchise with just as many films, and in fact more films than the Art the Clown series. All Hallows Eve had a sequel, All Hallows Eve 2, and then two more sequels in 2023 and 2024 titled Trickster and Inferno. And nobody gives a fuck about any of these movies. They're not watching them. They're being sold into the Russian film market as part of mass catalogs, and people are making $10,000 back for these movies that probably have a budget of about 40 to 80,000.
I mean, this shit doesn't even look like, it looks like just AI generated trash.
Ooh, spooky. Really puts me in the mood for Halloween is watching derivative dog shit.
Don't you love movie blogs that all they do or all they need to suck off a movie is for it to just be the genre that you report on, and that's it? Because I can't remember the last time that Bloody Disgusting had a negative article about anything. Everything is always like, oh my God, it's horror. Oh, horror, horror,
Hold
horror.
on. You're completely burying the lead here. Pizza Hut has a La Double Con Extras 9.950 sale.
Yes, that's $18 for two pizzas.
That's a trash fucking deal. Domino's, you'd get two pizzas for only $5.99.
I know, I'm telling you. It's not a fucking race. Won't work.
Do we have a trailer
But
for this? I actually have not seen any footage from the All Hallows Eve sequels. This poster's better than
um,
what I was anticipating based off of the art from All Hallows Eve 2, which feels exactly like the Cabin Fever 2 art, which is actually a good horror movie. by Ty West, Cabin Fever 2.
Let me see if I can find it. Hold on. So this was it has one of the producers from Terrifier 2 apparently.
So it might not be horrible, is what they're trying to convince people, but it will be horrible.
It will be. Let me see. Wow. Well, when there's no trailer readily available, a little worrying. Yeah, there's nothing.
Nothing at all? Not even on like a blog website, like Bloody Disgusting, Fangoria. They don't have anything?
Oh, I just found one. Wow, this looks like shit. Okay, hold on.
All right, I'm so
Exactly,
excited to see this. We're
Bloody
going to be taking a look
Disgusting.
at All Hallows Eve, and this is Trickster?
Yes, from 2023.
These titles sound like they were inspired by David Gordon Green. Exorcist Believer, All Hallows Eve Trickster, now streaming on Tubi.
Some creep slipped a videotape into Timmy's candy bag while we were trick-or-treating.
A videotape?
Wait, that's just what? That's just a
You should see what's on it.
Wow,
What?
they got back the original woman. What?
no. That's the same footage. Oh, okay. All right.
Nice try. They tricked us. That's exactly what they wanted.
Oh wow. Well, it's definitely a different cinematographer because I can't see shit.
This movie feels like the Sci-Fi Channel made-for-TV Return of the Living Dead sequels. Did you ever see any of those?
No.
They're really bad.
No.
They're remarkably bad. If you want to talk about a series of horror films that drop off dramatically in quality, Return of the Living Dead is the most guilty. After Return of the Living Dead 2, they're all unwatchable. Some people like the third one for some reason. I don't understand why. Not me. Everything that follows that second one is so painful to sit through. And that is the same look and vibe.
This is the
Wow,
other
they got it
Hallows
in the hands of RLJ Entertainment. That is wild. Good for them. They took home a little bit of money.
Oh, great spirit of Halloween. Why is Robert not calling me?
Trick or treat.
Aren't you all a little late to be out this young?
God, this just looks like
Open the door for anyone.
like-
They could be infected. They could be crazy. They think it's
default setting
Halloween.
horror.
It is Halloween.
You know what I mean? Like it's just hey, it looks like a horror movie. Because it's kind of darkish and greenish and bluish.
Look! Oh my god!
Open the door. Right, take down the door!
Okay, we're cribbing The Ring. We're cribbing It. We're cribbing so much. Not an original thought in this filmmaker's head.
Stop it! There's no monster!
Oh, that's from Poltergeist, right?
Yeah, the classic Getting Dragged Under the Bed shot, produced by Damien Leone. I bet you that was
Yeah.
actually a courtesy credit that he didn't want.
Maybe because this looks like trash.
But like I said, we are very fortunate to live in the timeline where the Art the Clown series is what took off and not this. And you can understand why, especially if you're on patreon.com/LowRes and watching the video of this along with us. The trailer was truly unremarkable. I'm sorry to the Spotify and Apple Podcast listeners out there. And while we're doing plugs, why don't you actually help fund an interesting horror movie to come starring you, Hans. Hans, I hear you just got signed to this
Oh, yes.
brand new film shooting later this year. What is the deal with this? Can you fill us in on this a little bit? What is happening?
Yeah. Yeah, I just signed a
There
contract
was
to
a
be.
A-list director who recruited you to star in a new major motion picture.
Yes, it's called Disorderly, and we're gonna be shooting it next month right here.
That's great that you didn't have the page pulled up right away. You still had to
Shut up.
scroll.
Yeah. So next month we're gonna be. I'm gonna be.
Next month. It's like next week. What are you talking
It's
about?
like next week.
It's
Yeah.
not even, it's 10 days maybe. We got 10 days and we're shooting this thing completely out of pocket,
Yeah.
minus a couple of very generous people who decided to donate, who believe in what this movie can be. This movie that does not have any sort of artwork accompanying it. It's just very blind faith, which I appreciate. I really do appreciate that. We are going to be shooting a brand new film in November. We had an A plan, and the A plan was we're going to shoot this movie that I've had in the works for a long time now called Cringe Lord. And then I found out the lead of that movie has a child on the way, and he's not going to be able to shoot. So, okay, understandable. I don't want to recast that. That's on pause for right now. What was plan B? Plan B was we're going to shoot a sitcom called, and this is a tentative title, called Lunchtime Rowdies. And it would have featured the entire Headshot LLC lineup and then a couple of other familiar faces. That needs to be shot in Massachusetts. Hans is coming to New York. We have spaces available in New York. Okay, plan B is out for right now. Both of those will be picked up in 2025. This is my own project, 2025, that we're planning here. Plan C. Do you remember what plan C was? We got down to plan D or F, if I remember right. What was
Plan C was
Plan C?
practice makes perfect.
That's another one that's happening.
No?
Though. That is another one that's happening, though. But here's the thing.
Right.
Practice makes perfect. I don't want to reveal the full slate, but I guess maybe that's inevitable here. Practice makes perfect. For those of you who are old heads on the YouTube channel, I put out a short film back in 2018 that had actually been shot in 2015 and parts of 2014 called Practice Makes Perfect. It was my first attempt at a feature film. I tried it when I was 22 or 23 years old. Didn't know what the fuck I was doing. Didn't know how to operate a camera. I had a director of photography come in and do most of it for me, and I was just given direction. I didn't know anything technically at the time. And then what I wound up with was a total mess of a movie because we also really didn't have a script. We had like a 40-page script. I was like, yeah, we'll just improvise the extra 30 minutes and it'll come out to a feature. That's what Judd Apatow does. Why can't we do it? So I was thinking along those lines. And then the reality was, oh, man, I just burnt like $10,000 on facility rentals and buying gear, and I have fucking nothing. I have an ugly movie. But the lead of the movie was great, was really good. 19 years old, looked about 29, 30, 40 years old because of that Armenian Polish bloodline. You know, there's a lot of trauma, a lot of stress in those genetics. So he was good. And then I had a falling out with him because he had a bad time working with me. He didn't like acting. Didn't speak for 10 years. Got back in touch with him kind of recently, and it looks like we're gonna do Practice Makes Perfect again. We're gonna do it all over again. It's an endless time loop. Hell on earth. Hellraiser 7. Practice Makes Perfect. So that's still something to come, but here's the reality of that situation. It takes a lot of money or a very generous and open-minded school to let you film there. And so there's things to be done with that. I need to get proper investors for that before we start going down that path. That will be done, though.
Probably summertime, too, right? To get to school. Probably easier.
Yes. So that's the thing, too, is you can... Back when I was 22 or 23, I really lucked out in that I met the superintendent of... no, sorry, not the superintendent, but he was like a field officer or something with the Quincy Public Schools in Massachusetts. And he was like, listen, kid, I know it's summertime and you think it's going to be easy to get one of these high schools. It's not. There's so much that you're going to have to jump through in order to get this as a shooting location. What you really want to do is hit up a private school. And as a matter of fact, there's a private school just down the block here. I highly recommend it. You can tell them that I sent you there. I'll put you in touch with the woman who owns the school, who runs the school, the headmaster or whatever. And I had a meeting with this 60-year-old woman who ran the school, and she liked the idea of everything, and we worked out an agreement for $500 a day. I could shoot at the school for however long I needed. And then I got to the school. I checked out the school. The school is very old, 1800s Massachusetts built school. Really scenic, beautiful location. I want to get it back again, especially for that price, for those terms. Very, very, if I knew what I was doing at the time, we could have really made something cool and interesting and special with that, because the school was just gorgeous. So I'd like to do something along those lines. And yeah, the reality is we're going to have to book a private school. That's not going to be easy during the school year, especially since there's going to be faculty working there over the winter. The way that we were potentially doing Practice Makes Perfect, though, is a little bit like the Richard Linklater film Boyhood. So some of that old shit would be factored in, but I would want to shoot it seasonally. So that's something to be figured out down the line. That's another part of Project 2025. Then we landed on something else. Plan D for Disorderly here. This is based off of a novel I wrote over 10 years ago. 11 years ago, I wrote a novel. Actually, I wrote it 12 years ago, but it was published 11 years ago. It's out of print. Don't bother trying to get a hold of it. Probably reads horrible. My writing back then, certainly not the strongest, I assure you. Maybe we'll do a new version of it besides this movie at some point. Took the general basic premise of that, removed everything else. Hans and I developed a new story idea, placed all the beats for what would be this movie into a document, and then I wrote a script in 72 hours that we've got here that everyone seems to be liking. We're rolling ahead with it. We got half the cast already locked. We got some more people we got to lock currently. And frankly, getting a little bit of money is going to be very helpful in making sure that this movie comes to fruition in a very stress-free manner. It's going to happen no matter what, because luckily I'm an expert. But boy, howdy, wouldn't it be nice to not have to worry about buying pizza one night of the week and eating and having some drinks?
Pizza. I can't even have pizza, so I'll have to worry about that too. Because if I have bread at night, I'll have a diabetic coma. So
you can't eat. You're not going to be able to eat pizza.
No, I'm not at night. So my blood sugar spikes at night, so I avoid eating anything that has like bread or anything like that. At night, I just usually have just like yogurt and blueberries and shit like that. So that's fine. I'm the one that has to adjust. Don't worry. But yeah. I'm kind of
damn. I was already thinking like, damn, we got to get Hans to try this pizza place, and that's gonna spoil a lot for you, certainly. And we do have a pizza man in the script that needs to be. Yeah. I mean, actually, it has been cast.
Yeah,
I think I can give it away, even though he hasn't signed the contract yet. But it's going to be a friend of the show who is a master impressionist. So there you go. By the way, we didn't even mention
cauliflower pizza. I can have that.
You're killing me with the cauliflower pizza shit. You remind me of me when I was a vegetarian all of a sudden. Because you got to cut out gluten. You got to cut out, because when you wind up eating a lot of dough. You wind up getting basically your problem here, and you try to cut out that as well as frequently as you can. And so I would rely on a cauliflower pizza every so often with sometimes alternative sauces, But anyway.
But that's why a lot of vegetarians are fat, right?
Yes.
They base their diet on not protein because they can't get it from regular food. So it's a lot of bread. I remember not growing up, in my early 20s in Canada, and I had a couple of vegetarian friends, and I was like, you're fat. What's the point? Like, you're not being healthier. You're just eating worse and not getting enough nutrients because you're just eating, fucking lettuce. But I'll adjust. It's not a big deal. I'm sure there's other things I can eat.
Of course. No, it's New York City. There's tons and tons and tons we can have you try. It's going to be a great time. I'm looking forward to getting back to work, getting back to business. Yeah. Even though, we'll be 2 men down in our headshot coalition from last time, but there's going to be a rotating assortment of other people. in the mix. So I think it's going to be a blast. And we want your help. And if you want to be a producer on this movie, because that's what we're offering in exchange, is special thanks credits for people who donate $100 or more. You're going to get your name in the finished credits of the film. Or if you're a high roller, you know you're financially well off, Joe Biden's economy isn't bothering you that much, you want to give $1,000, that's going to make you an associate producer. $5,000, well, now you're an executive producer. You're like Brian Fuller on, what did he Hannibal? Did he do Hannibal?
Yes.
He did Hannibal. You're going to be like Brian Fuller on Hannibal. Or if you're really, really feeling generous, $10,000 will get you a producer credit. And we'll do Zoom meetings with you. We'll keep you in the loop. We'll pry ideas out of you for this movie. $10,000. It's not just an in-name only credit. We want to get you in the mix as much as you can. You can be in Turkey. You can be, DC's always wondering, hey, what can I do to help? And he lives in Canada. You'll be like DC, and DC's a bodybuilder, massive dude. So that's a cool thing, right, Hans?
What, bodybuilding? Yeah. It's
Hans
so cool.
he was an aspiring bodybuilder at age 17. A lot of people don't know that. And that's how you got
Yeah.
fat originally. You just ate all the food for the nutrients to get the
I was
carbs, but then you forgot to lift.
It was just bulking for like 10 years and no exercise. I was just like, I'll get to it eventually. And I'll just bulk up with candy and fried foods from Costa Rica.
The fried rice diet, that is clutch for any bodybuilder. We didn't even read the synopsis to this movie here. So Disorderly follows Elliot Resnick, a.k.a. Hans Lam Barboza, a social climbing fashion photographer in Beacon, New York. Now, despite a recent surge of success, Resnick is plagued by end-stage leukemia and the cold inevitability that his time is running out. While house-sitting for a friend in Queens, Resnick makes a bold move and decides to explore his most taboo desire, vor, the act of consuming another human alive. Now, this was based off of your own personal sexual fetishes, right, Hans?
Yes, that's what I brought into the story. It's like I want to hum while I'm shooting.
Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't, though? If you really think about it, who wouldn't? Is what I always say. You know what's funny? 10 years ago, I pitched to you, I said, hey, you should direct a version of my book. And you said, yeah, let's do it. And now,
I
yeah,
don't fucking
that
remember
actually
that.
happened. That did happen.
Ah, well, here we are.
Here we are,
You-
and it's not
you-
that. It's not that at all. It's me directing it and you starring in it. That's kind of close, isn't it? So
I guess, yeah.
that was
I mean,
back
we're
in
gonna
the
We're gonna do something with something you've done. So I guess that's good. Taking
That's
elements
goal
from that.
completion regardless. That's just playing
Yeah.
the old switcheroo because I said you direct it and I star in it, and now it's you star in it and I direct it. I don't want to do any acting in this thing if need be. I'm ready to play 1 to 6 different roles in this movie, but I don't want to do that at all. I'd rather just stay behind the camera and let it be a cool little adventure that I'm steering the ship of. So this is Disorderly, and you can go to lowres.org/disorderly right now and contribute to the film. Or, some people, they don't want to do the old Kickstarter, Indiegogo method of contributing to movies. Well, don't worry. We do have apparel. We've got merch. And every single dollar that is spent on that goes into the movie as well. So if you're on a tighter budget and you want something immediate, we have 4 different shirts in the shop. But I'm going to warn you guys, we're going to be pulling some of the merch November 12th and putting in brand new merch for the fall season. Because people, they got to bundle up. They got to stay warm as the temperature drops. And so these 4 T-shirts, we don't have to roll through them like we've been doing on live shows. If you're on patreon.com/LowRes and you're watching the video, you can see right now that Hans has the 4 shirts pulled up at the moment. And if you're not, just go to lowres.org right now. And we've got 2 more Young Leche Mass State Lottery collab shirts in the shop that are still available. These are one of a kind. The Buddy Duress Helmet the Clown shirt sold out. And also the Happy Fisherman shirt sold out as well. So There is still Vitali, and there is still the Rathke and Devlin t-shirts available. These are designed by Young Leche, the premier airbrush streetwear artist. And then we also have Mass State Lottery posters. We've got plenty of posters for sale. These are not going to be disappearing anytime soon. I highly encourage you buy these. They look terrific. If you want to click that, I can give the dimensions real quick for those who are interested. We were going to do a run of A2 posters. We are not doing that. These are 18 by 24. So they're a little bit wider and maybe a bit taller than A2 size, but they look great on anybody's wall. So check these out. Again, lowres.org if you want to buy some merch, because it'll certainly help out Hans and myself. All right, let's get into Terrifier 1, because we talked about All Hallows Eve quite a bit. We both agree it's kind of amateur. The look of it is not very... It's very of the time. It's very of the time in a cheap way.
Yeah.
And he certainly improves between All Hallows Eve and Terrifier 1, which comes out in 2016. So 3 years have passed, although, again, keeping in mind, part of All Hallows Eve was shot in 2006, or 2008, excuse me, and was integrated in. We don't have a anthology nature to Terrifier 1. Terrifier is the proper introduction of Art the Clown, as played by David Howard Thornton. Now, what is your feeling here about Terrifier? Because when I watched it the first time, I was immediately put off by the look of the movie, because this also looks cheap, but in a different way. The lighting is kind of strange. The color use is a bit, again, I want to use the word flat here. The lighting and the color is flat. It just seems not like a real movie. It feels more like a softcore porn film. It looks like the Batman XXX parody that they uploaded to Pornhub in 2011 or whatever. It doesn't look like a proper movie just yet. And this is not something that they'll figure out until really Terrifier 3. And you could make the argument that that doesn't even really have that.
Yeah, it has a very hobo with a shotgun look to it. I don't know if you ever saw that.
Oh,
but
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
no. Actually, I thought All Hallows Eve had more of a look in that sense,
similar, yeah.
where there's a kind of washed out blue color palette in play that's supposed to emulate 1970s film. And it does and it doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, because I feel like it's a big improvement from All Hallows Eve to Terrifier 1, that I did enjoy myself at the beginning, but I think because it is less than an hour and a half. I think it's an hour 25 or something, how long it is. So you think it would go quickly, but the lack of story hurts this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because we don't know who the main character is until like 20 minutes in, and there's never really much of a reason for the main character to be our main character other than the girl that's on camera more than the other girls. And because there's no story other than she's trying to get away from this killer, by the time that you get to like the hour mark, you're just kind of like, all right, like he's not. At first, it starts with him killing very quickly and getting rid of people quickly, and then it just kind of drags because you need the main character to make it to the end of the movie. Spoiler alert! To do like a wraparound with the beginning of the story, but there's just nothing going on other than violence and other than, well, is he gonna get her? And I think that he's gonna get everyone, because even though Art does get hurt multiple times, it doesn't matter. I do like that they got really creative with some of the kills, and it's very graphic right from the start.
Absolutely.
With the first kill being the interviewer getting her face poked out, I guess, because I guess this girl has very strong fingers to poke holes into this lady's face. But that's right from the start. So that's how the movie welcomes you, with a gross, maimed face lady that very graphically murders someone without even getting to art, and that's how the movie starts. But my issue is that okay, so I enjoy the fact that there's not like a complicated story, or there's not like a message that you're trying to tell. It's just like, well, this is gonna be fun because we have a fun character that's kind of goofy, kind of silly, that kind of shows humanity at some points, but it's just like a fake out, right? So at points you're just kind of like, oh, is there more depth to this character in a couple of interactions? Especially when he interacts with like the crazy mom that has like a doll that she thinks is a baby, and then you have like a what could be a sweet moment between Art the clown and her, where she's like holding him, and then Art kind of like puts his head on her, and he's being pet by her, and then you cut away, so you're just kind of like, oh, maybe someone got to this guy, maybe there's some humanity there, and then cut back to them and he's killed her. But
which, by the way,
there's
you have one of the most disturbing sequences of any of the Terrifier films directly following that, which is Art the Clown as this woman. It feels very of the time. We're kind of weirded out still by trans people. It feels like that. And he's walking around like, Bunny, do you know
Goddess Bunny? That's exactly what I was gonna say. That because I completely forgot that happens, and then he started walking like Goddess Bunny, who was this meme, this trans person.
Pull it up. We can pull it up. Yeah. So there was a VHS tape that was uploaded to LimeWire or something. This is before the days of just simple YouTube, and it was this anorexic looking, disfigured trans person who would walk around in this very peculiar manner. And there's footage of this bunny individual back when they're at a healthier weight and look a bit more normal. Something happened here. There was some sort of accident that resulted in Bunny looking the way that Bunny did. And it became this terrifying thing you would send your friends, like, can you believe, look at this. Hey, look at this. And that was a spooky thing. Nowadays, you do that, and people would probably just laugh. But 4 years ago, people do that, and then you get fired from your job and kicked off MasterCard. And
it's funny because I can't find the original, like the English, I guess, English speaking, I guess you can say. But I think I just found it in like the Spanish version, because this shit was also huge in Latin America.
Of course.
And
I probably thought Bunny was a demon, a possessed demon.
And the video is called fuck, what's this word?
What do we got? Think of the word as you pull up the video here.
Obey the walrus. That's how it's called in Spanish. Obedece la morsa. I don't know why. Oh, here it is. No, fuck, I can't find the original video anywhere.
Well, we just need a picture, I think. A picture will probably suffice of Bunny. But Art starts walking around as this woman, and it's such a creepy, eerie thing. The Goddess Bunny tap dancing. You sure that won't do it?
This one?
Yeah.
Oh,
here you go. Just type it into YouTube. There we go.
That's just fucking, what is it, like 120p? Jesus.
It's the old days. It's 12 years ago this was uploaded. So again, you have this anorexic trans person with an umbrella dressed in a...
But then it gets creepy. Hold on.
Oh my.
That's the walk that Art was doing in the movie.
Yes.
With the girl's torso cut on top of his body.
Mm-hmm.
I think she had like polio or something as a child. So her arms and legs are all fucked up. Where? Very dead.
So creepy, so eerie. But unfortunate because, people aren't supposed to look that way. This is all tragic.
Is it?
Well, you got famous from it, so I don't know.
I think she got famous after death, though.
Are we sure about that? When did Bunny the Goddess die? Is there a Wikipedia page here where we can look this up?
Why is this in Spanish? Yeah, January 20. Oh, okay. So
What?
she
No.
was.
So yeah, I mean,
What the fuck?
lived. I'm sorry. You watching the Little Rascals while we're trying to
I
do a
just-
show here?
They just started playing right after this. A Shirley Temple video. It's kind of creepy.
Yeah, no, that's the same. That's about right. If a almost 40-year-old man is looking up Shirley Temple,
Yeah.
he's probably looking up Goddess Bunny as well.
Yep.
Wow,
Tomorrow.
made it
Right.
long, made it deep into life. 61 years old,
Yeah.
and put on some weight. Looks
As much as she could, I guess. It looks like
Yeah.
a fucking hot dog with arms.
looks
with,
kind of
like-
more normal, wouldn't you say? Maybe not.
No.
New York,
Would I say that? No.
New York Times did an obituary. That's
Is
crazy.
this the? This is like Roger Ebert, right? before
I was going to say that looks like
Corrupt.
John Goodman a bit, doesn't it?
Losing weight. It's just when Al Roker lost a lot of weight, just a big head and a little body.
hmm
Yeah.
Well, did your opinion of that look like AI? That look like a deviant art construct of what Bunny would look like if they were slightly more normal? I was going to ask, what did your opinion on Damien Leone's directing improve at all with Terrifier?
I think it's an improvement from All Hallows Eve. I think it suffers from similar issues, and those issues are story related.
Mhm.
Because I think you can do a fun slasher, but give me something to
Yeah.
hold on to other than, well, we have 3 locations, and these girls are going to be running around the location, and this guy is going to be jumping off from shadows, and we're going to be using every stereotype from a chasing movie, which is, oh my God, I'm hiding here. I'm going to throw this thing over there. So the guy goes over there, and then the guy goes over there, and she goes away. So what happens is expected. The things that are not expected are the deaths, which I do think are very creative. Let me see. Starts with so the first death, I put them out here. You have the lady poking holes into the other girl's face. And the second death, you have the Italian man that gets turned into a candle, right?
Mhm.
Then you have the third death, which is just violent stabbing the other Italian guy, which I thought was cool because it shows like the goofy side of art. I just made a candle out of this.
Are you talking about the jack-o'-lantern?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jack-o'-lantern,
Why
that's
didn't
what it
Michael
is.
Myers ever do this? This seems like such an obvious thing for him to do. I guess Michael Myers was not purely sadistic. He was a bit tactical. He's killing just because you're in front of him. He's not going to necessarily turn your face into a jack-o'-lantern. That's more Leatherface, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a different type of autism, I guess. It's not so creative. It's more like I have to kill right now, not let them make a statue out of it. So the third death, it's him just violently stabbing that other Italian guy that was cleaning shit, that he wrote his name in shit in the bathroom, which I thought was funny. Unexpected and funny. Then you have the fourth death, which is Art cutting a girl in half, pussy down.
The most impressive death in
Yeah.
the movie, and the only thing that I think makes the film stand out as something that is worth noting compared to similarly made films on that same kind of limited budget. When I watched that, when I went back to these movies around the time of Terrifier 2, I saw that and I was like, oh, that's why people like these movies, because this looks really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
And that moment alone, I guess it kind of is enough to justify the rest of the movie, which is not that remarkable in any way. It's kind of amateur. Frankly, the use of a gun from Art, which is
Yeah,
not
I
something
hated
that's
that.
new. We get that in All Hallows Eve as well, where he's doing a shooting, drive-by shooting Art. He's suddenly gangster. It was something in this movie. You have the lead character who's played by Jenna Cannell, who's Tara, I believe her character name is. You think she's going to make it out. You think she's going to be I hate the term final girl, but I'll use it here just for convenience. You think she's going to be the final girl. She's not. She gets not just killed. Art shoots her in the face several times.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny that that's the end result for this character is she gets shot in the face.
Well, he kind of, and that's the worst death, I think, but it's funny because, oh, no, or it works because it's just him being frustrated, right? He's kind of sick of this girl that refuses to die, and she's hurt him a couple of times, and she's been the one that's putting or giving him the most work. So at some point, he just kind of grabs a gun, shoots her a couple of times, then he goes back to his sack of weapons, reloads the gun, and then you think, well, maybe he'll do something more. No, he just goes and like shoots her again. Uh, so that's just, I mean, not my favorite kill, but it kind of makes sense on like he was able to get rid of everyone quickly, and this bitch is giving him trouble. So, okay, fine. He's frustrated. Then, what I thought was going to be death number 6, but wasn't, was when the bald guy got hammered on his head, but then he came back. So that's not a death that you were probably with that note there. Number 7 was kind of gnarly too, which is when he stabs the guy on the top of the head and then cuts his head off. That was also cool. And then the last death is when the girl is just there with this sign that says circus and her eyes are taking out, and that's another one that's off camera.
You know what I've
I
noticed? You know what I've noticed with these movies is Damien Leone loves to cast 40-year-old, vaguely Italian or maybe black bald men. That's what he loves more than anything else. And you get that with this movie with Mike the Exterminator, a.k.a. I believe the actor's name is Matt McAllister. Excuse me. You never want to call somebody whose name is Matt Mike. It shows such a lack of respect. And vice versa. You never want to call Mike Flanagan Matt Flanagan if you meet him in person at some sort of event.
Yep.
You have this bald guy. Now, he's clearly just a white guy, right? But you can see in his face he's probably Russian or Italian. But you will see with Terrifier 3, there are a number of maybe black, maybe white, maybe Dan Bongino looking men who are about 50 years old. And it's like, wow, he really just likes casting average, everyday, older men to put into these movies, blue-collar guys.
His buddies.
I think it's like his surrogate, because if you take a look at him, he kind of looks like, I mean, he's clearly a white guy. He's a Leone. That means he's Italian. So I think he has just a penchant for casting surrogates for himself. He is bald. Kind of a Chris Daughtry look.
I think I'm looking forward to seeing the other two just because I know that they all kind of improve. And I think I might have seen the second one like you did, the cam rip, just because we wanted to get an episode out. So I'm looking forward to seeing the improvements because I think that one thing that he does really well is applying the money that he's getting for, because each movie the budget is bigger and you can tell like the movie looks better. So I kind of want to see that, but I'm a little worried the fact that you said that until Terrifier 3 is when it actually looks like a real theater movie and not just something that's like for TV.
And frankly, Terrifier 3 might even be a stretch. I might watch the cam of that when we do, or not the cam, but there's an HD copy that's out now. When I watch that, I might have a different feeling. When it's on the TV, it might just be because I was in a nice big theater, huge screen, comfortable seat, soft drink in hand. That could be a big reason why I felt that way. Right. Everything else I watched on the TV, but I do actually think it improved visually speaking. And it is, we'll get into it. I want to spare my words until we do our live show on Halloween, on All Hallows Eve. That's not Halloween, is it? All Hallows Eve? That's the day before Halloween. And Eve is before. Is it?
Right. Yeah, the night before. Or I don't know. I'm not American. Why are you asking me? I don't even celebrate that shit.
When we get to Terrifier 2, there's an improvement in the look. That's for certain, but it's also because the budget has gone up. With this movie, the budget was $35,000. They wound up making over $100,000, and I believe Dread Central put it out. They distributed the movie, which I didn't even know they were in the business of distributing movies. I don't know if I trust Dread Central these days. But they wound up putting it out, and the good thing about these movies, and even Terrifier 2, is they're on everything for free. You can very easily watch every single one of these movies. They're on Tubi, Pluto, Peacock, Amazon.
YTS.
Yeah, or YTS if you really want the freshest one. It's good. It's good to have a convenient horror movie that does something a little different. I have to say, I'm still warming up to Art the Clown as a character, though. The art in these two movies feels more sinister to me, feels a little darker, a little weirder. And I think maybe they've gotten too self-aware with the clown character in the subsequent installments of him being such a hallmark feature character. And they're doing a Freddy Krueger thing where you watch those early Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and Freddy's a dark, weird, bad, burnt man. And then he becomes the clown prince of crime, essentially. He becomes Henny Youngman, and he's cracking jokes and making quips, and he's got all these terrific one-liners. And that seems to be where they're going with Art, but obviously Art doesn't talk. So
it's visual.
It's all visual. It's all these visual gags and the over-the-top physical gestures that David Howard Thornton winds up doing. I'm not too big of a fan of that. I did want to ask, what is your opinion on Vicky? Vicky is the character that's introduced in this movie with the face that looks like a chimpanzee tore it off. This character winds up becoming more central as the movies go on. But what did you think about Vicky and the look and just her as a supporting character for Terrifier 1?
I'm going to be honest with you. I was confused as to which one of the girls it was by the end, because I wasn't sure if it was the girl from the beginning or if it was the girl that shows up later to meet with her friends. Is that one, right? Is the second one? The one that arrives later?
Vicky is the one without a face, without the eyes.
No, I know.
Played by Samantha Scaffoldy.
But that's the girl that shows up after, right? She's not the one that's being chased from the beginning. Okay. I just don't think that anyone's good. I think the performances are kind of very whatever, very what you would expect, I guess, in a slasher. But I think the fact that I was confused about which girl is the last one that survived kind of tells you that it wasn't clear for me. For me by the end. I do like the wraparound with the beginning of the story, though, and I think I remember her being a factor in Terrifier 2. But yeah, I was actually going to ask you, because I didn't bother looking it up, if that was the second girl or which one of the two brunettes was that, because I feel like they were kind of interchangeable at some points. Yeah.
Damien Leone seems to like cast, just like he enjoys casting 50-year-old Italian black men. He seems to enjoy casting this very brunette, maybe vaguely Latina girl that can be fit into just about any role. And the characters don't really have distinguishable traits in terms of their personalities with this movie. That is something he will change with Terrifier 2 and 3. So his writing does improve, but there's like, at the end of the day, this is still a slasher movie. I do think Terrifier 1 is by far the worst of the three Terrifier films. It's not a good movie. I think there are aspects of it that show nuggets of brilliance, things that will develop and are merely seeds of things to come, but it's still not quite where it needs to be to become this watchable, entertaining piece of horror filmmaking. And I had trouble even with this recent viewing, even though the runtime is pretty short. The other two Terrifier films are a hell of a lot longer. They go past 2 hours. The second one is 2.5 hours long. I didn't have a problem with that. This movie's 85 minutes, and I had a problem with this movie. So time is relative here. It's how you use it, and it's what you're showcasing within that. Terrifier does not do it for me here, and I probably will never go back to this movie unless there's like 10 of these films and they keep stacking the quality with each installment, and we have to do another retrospective on the Terrifier series. But I think I'm good on this one. I'd probably go back to All Hallows Eve before Terrifier. In fact, I think that the filmmaking was more amateur in All Hallows Eve, but I had a better time with that movie than I did with this on the whole. Aside from that one kill that split up the middle, I'm good on Terrifier, the first installment.
It just doesn't really do anything interesting with the story. So you have a bunch of gags split or separated by a bunch of nothing in between. So that's why I feel like it feels like it drags, even though it's a very short movie. There's really nothing for you to hold on to story-wise other than waiting for the next kill. And there's not even that much personality shown by the villain either, where that could keep you interested. Because it focuses on the girls, but at the same time, it doesn't really give them anything to do other than, hey, we're here and we're getting chased. So the 85 minutes do kind of feel like a lot longer. There's really nothing to hold your attention other than, well, let's see who the next person's going to be, and that's it. So I agree with you on that.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any final thoughts on Terrifier or All Hallows Eve, or just Damien Leone as a writer director who likes to put his name before his movie now? I mean, nobody does that. John Carpenter did that with Halloween. Who else has done that with a horror franchise?
Jacob A. Miller.
Oh, yeah. You know what he should do? He should say, the cinematologist presents for his next film.
The cinematographer presents Jacob A. Miller's. And then
yes, that's the real way to do it.
I think I'm glad that we got these two out of the way. I didn't have a good time, but I'm looking forward to the other two because I know that they improve in quality. I feel like for the movies to be this successful, good for him. I'm hoping that this does not open the door to copycats because they're not going to be able to do it well. And this always happens. So especially with how much money the third one has made. But I don't know what to think of him as a director, because I mean, for this type of movie, good, I guess, but if that's what he's going to be known for, just slasher movies where the villains don't speak.
I think he's in a dodgy territory right now because he seems to have in front of him a lot of opportunity, especially now that Terrifier 3 is an even bigger hit than Terrifier 2. When Terrifier 2 hit, they said, we'd love to have you come on over to Blumhouse or any given horror company who was knocking at his door and trying to give him a contract to either get Art the Clown or get him to do something for them. And to go and do Terrifier 3 when it could flame out, lightning might not strike twice, but it did, and it did even bigger. Yeah. If he doesn't take that opportunity to go work on a studio film, and hopefully he doesn't get lost in it, because I appreciate the fact he's willing to go, I will take the limited budget of $2 million and have total creative freedom, and we'll put this out in theaters, and that'll be that. I like that approach, but when you do that and you do nothing but that, you run the risk of becoming somebody like a Hal Hartley. And you can't really level up if you never try the thing you haven't done before. And so I'd love to see what he would do with a real budget under studio guidelines and someone standing over his shoulder, bothering him, trying to tamper with the product along the way, and see how that comes out. I would be very interested to see that instead of him jumping into Terrifier 4 instead soon. But this episode is going out today on Spotify and Apple Podcasts because, again, we're recording this on October 29th. We want you guys listening right now to join us over on YouTube. Type in LowRes Wonder Bread. When we go live at, what time are you free on Thursday? We should have ironed that out beforehand. What time are you free on Thursday to record?
You're going to say 6?
6 we're going to record at 6 p.m. Eastern. And we want you to join us in the live chat as we talk about Terrifier 2 and Terrifier 3. So come hang out with us. In the meantime, that has been Movies for this week. Thank you for listening.